This video is for the unboxing and assembly of the Harvey Turbo T60 Wood Lathe. First, we would start with unboxing the Turbo T60 Wood Lathe. To start, we will use a pair of scissors to cut open the straps. Then, using a pry bar and hammer, we will then uncrate the lathe from the wooden crate. Once the panels are removed, we will unwrap the lathe. Remember when unwrapping the lathe to set the manual aside. Once the pallet is unwrapped, we will start removing all the loose components from the lathe, starting with the spindle guard assembly. Next, we will set aside the 12-inch swing-away extension bed assembly, as well as the tool and hardware box. At this point, we should only have the electrical and mobile switch, as well as the legs assembly. We will start by removing the legs assembly and set those aside. This will leave us with the main components of the lathe, which we could use a machine such as a forklift to raise it up and install the legs. However, in this video we will remove all the main components such as the headstock and tailstock, which will make it easier to lift the lathe and install the legs. To do this, we'll start by removing the tailstock. In order to do that, we'll need to remove the positioning pin first, which will then allow us to slide the tailstock off the main bed. From there, we will grab the electrical box and set it off to one side so that we can remove the banjo and tool rest assembly. The tool rest assembly should easily slide off the main bed as seen here. We'll take this and we'll set it aside for now. Next, we will remove the headstock, but first we need to remove the position pin. If the position pin is getting stuck, one simple trick is to use a L-shape hex key to twist the pin loose as seen here. We'll set those aside and proceed with removing the headstock assembly. We'll unlatch the handle and carefully slide the headstock off the main bed. Be careful as the headstock is very heavy, so be extra careful when handling the headstock. Now we will open up the box containing all the tools and hardware. Inside the box, you should find the hardwares for mounting the leg and tool storage. We'll set those aside and take all the other content out as well, including the Spur center, the tool storage bracket, the locating rod, the faceplate wrench, and some hex wrenches. We will then remove the top layer of the foam to reveal more parts and accessories underneath, such as the leveling feet, the profiling centers, the live center, a faceplate, as well as a knockout rod. To remove the main bed from the pallet, we will use a 13mm open-end wrench to loosen and remove the nut securing the bed to the pallet below the hinge, as seen here. For the remaining nuts, we can use a socket to remove them. In this case, we use an impact with a 13mm socket. Then, we will lift the bed off the pallet and remove the pallet. Now, we will unbox and install the leveling feet for the support legs. With each foot, remove the nut and thread the foot into the pre-drilled holes on the bottom corners of the cast iron leg, as seen here. Once the foot is threaded in, reinstall the nut onto the foot. We'll do the same thing for the other side and repeat the same process for the other support leg. Once the support legs are ready to go, it's time to lift the lathe bed using either a lift table, a hoist, or a forklift. In this particular case, we will use a lift table. We'll add some wooden blocks at the bottom to help provide some additional stability where the underside is uneven, as seen here. You'll notice that there is a spine or a little ridge at the middle of the bed, so this is why we need these support blocks. Next, we will take a tape measure to measure out the height of the support leg and determine how high the bed needs to be raised for attaching the support leg underneath. For added security, we use two ratchet straps to secure to an overhead support beam. This provides additional stabilities when attaching the legs. As seen here, the two ratchet straps will provide the additional support that we need when installing the support legs. Now we will go ahead with installing the support legs. For this, we will slide the support leg underneath and align the legs with the bed mounting holes and use the included cap screws to attach the leg to the bed. It is important to note that there is a difference between the left and right support legs. Be careful to identify and position them correctly during installation to ensure proper assembly. Each support leg should have 4 screws total, 2 in the front and then 2 in the back. We'll repeat the same process for the second leg as well. Make sure that all the mounting screws are fully tightened before proceeding. Once the support legs are securely installed, we can now remove all the secondary supports such as the ratchet strap and the lift table. At this point, it is good to use a level to check the main bed to ensure that the bed is leveled with the ground. If needed, we will adjust the leveling feet. In the case that the leveling feet need to be adjusted, you'll need to loosen the jam nut up top and then adjust the fixed nut below to extend or retract the feet as needed, then tighten the nut fully. Now we will go ahead with installing the headstock. To do so, align the position of the blocks and the clamp blocks in the T-slot. To allow clearance for the clamp block, make sure that the locking handle is disengaged or extended so that the block is able to slide into the slot. We will be lifting the headstock up. We'll align it into the T-slot, lifting the handle to disengage the locking block, slide it and align it so that the headstock is flush before locking it back down. Now we will go ahead with the installation of the electrical box. We'll start by unboxing it and taking it out and setting it back down on a foam block just so it doesn't get damaged. Do note that the electrical box has 3 mounting keyholes that will hook onto the leg's pre-installed screws, as seen here. To mount the electrical box, we will loosen the mounting screws to allow some clearance for the keyholes to hook onto the screw heads. Then we will mount the electrical box, as seen here. We'll need to align and seat the mounting bracket keyholes onto the screw and then tighten the mounting screws. Now we will need to secure the cable to the clips located underneath the bed, as seen here. Now we will go ahead with installing the tool rest base, or banjo, similar to how we install the headstock. We'll disengage the locking handle and align the clamping block into the T-slot. As demonstrated here, rotating the locking handle will adjust the clamping force of the clamp block. Lastly, we'll install the tailstock as we did with the headstock. To prevent us from accidentally sliding the headstock off the main bed, we'll go ahead and reinstall the position pin onto the bed. If needed, use the L-shape hex key to tighten the pin. Then slide the headstock back into place. Notice that the position pin prevents us from accidentally sliding the headstock off completely. Next, we will unbox and install the 12-inch swing-away extension bed. Once we've removed the packaging, we'll go ahead and install the swing-away extension bed onto the hinge and engage the bed lock by latching it into place. Then we'll check the tailstock to ensure that it slides across the bed smoothly. Now, let's discuss the optional 20-inch extension bed, which can be mounted on the lathe in 3 locations: at the front of the bed, the right leg, or the right end of the main bed, as seen here. Mounting in the front or right end allows for more capacity. However, in this demonstration, we will be mounting it on the right leg for outboard turning, as seen here. Included with the extension bed should be 3 mounting screws and a tool rest extension. To install the extension, we will mount one of the screws in the bottom hole as seen here, which will then allow us to hook the extension bed onto it. From there, we will then install the other two screws afterwards from underneath. Once these screws are installed, tighten them up as seen here. Next, we'll talk about installing the spindle guard, which mounts right onto the comparator arm. To install it, we will remove the outer collar for the support rod and lift the spring pin and slide the rod into the bracket hole as seen here. Then we will install the outer collar and tighten the set screw to secure the guard in place. The spindle guard position can be changed by lifting the spring pin and tilting the guard forward or backwards until the spring snaps into position. If you plan to use the comparator arm feature, you'll need to install the profiling centers. In order to do so, the profiling centers with the flat side on the bar is installed onto the rear support bracket, whereas the slotted profile center is installed on the front support bracket in place of the spindle guard. To install the profiling centers, we'll start by removing the spindle guard collar, then release the spring pin to slide the spindle guard out. Next, we will lift up the spring pin, then insert the slotted profile center into the bracket hole and engage the spring pin into one of the three holes. Then, we will install the profiling center into the rear support bracket with the flat side facing up, then tighten the locking handle to secure it into place. And that is how you install the profiling centers for the comparator arm. Now, we'll talk about installing the tool storage bracket. We'll use the two holes on the legs to install this bracket. Use the Allen or hex key and the provided screws to install the storage bracket. We'll hand tighten the screws on first and then use the Allen key to tighten it up firmly. Now, we will set the tools that came in the tool and hardware box onto the tool bracket, which includes the following items: the faceplate wrench, the spur center, the locating rod, the hex wrench, the live center, and lastly, the knockout rod. For the 3-inch faceplate, we'll go ahead and show you how to install or remove it. To install the faceplate, we'll thread it clockwise onto the spindle as seen here. Then we will install the locating rod into the handwheel hole and hold the rod firmly while tightening the faceplate with the included wrench. Then we will tighten the two set screws on the faceplate to secure it into place. Now we'll go over to the tailstock and show you how to install the live center and remove it. To install the live center onto the tailstock, push the live center into the quill hole and tighten the tailstock quill locking lever to keep it in a stationary position. To remove the live center, simply loosen the tailstock locking lever and rotate the handwheel counterclockwise until the live center can be removed. Note that the live center has a self-ejecting feature that accepts Morse taper 2, similar to the spur center that can be installed on the headstock spindle simply by removing the faceplate and inserting the spur center. However, to remove the spur center, we'll need to use the knockout rod to push out the spur center as demonstrated here. If you ever plan to do outboard turning on the T60 lathe, you'll need to remove the comparator brackets that are located on the headstock and tailstock. Simply remove both brackets and set them aside. If the position pins are still installed, you'll need to remove it to allow the tailstock to slide over to the 12-inch swing-away extension bed. Once those are removed, set them aside and unlock the tailstock and slide it over to the 12-inch extension bed. From there, unlatch the extension bed and swing it out of the way so that the headstock can be slid to the end of the main bed. On the 20-inch extension bed, we'll need to remove the position pins so that we can install the tool rest base or banjo. We'll slide the banjo right off the main bed and install it onto the extension bed as seen here. For safety, we'll go ahead and reinstall the position pin. Since the banjo sits a little lower than the headstock, we'll need to install the tool rest extension. To do this, we'll loosen the locking lever, remove the tool rest and washer, and then install the extension into the banjo. We'll go ahead and tighten the locking lever and then install the tool rests onto the extension and lock the locking lever as well to secure the tool rests into the extension. Do note that the locking handles are spring-loaded and can be pulled out to release and change the handle position as needed. At this point, we'll reinstall the position pin on the right end of the main bed, then slide the headstock over and secure the headstock into place. And this is how the 20-inch extension bed should be mounted on the right leg for outboard turning. Now we will go over the speed range adjustment and how you can go about to change the belt from high to low. Note the different RPM ranges for the high and low settings. To change the belt position, make sure the lathe is off before opening the belt access door. Loosen the motor locking handle and pull the motor mount handle up to release the belt tension. Reposition the belt into the desired speed range pulley. In this scenario, we are moving it from the high position to the low position. From there, to tighten the belt, we will push down on the motor mount handle and tighten the locking handle to secure the belt into place. Once the belt is secured, we'll rotate the hand wheel by hand to ensure that the belt rotates smoothly on the pulley wheels. Note that the Harvey T60 lathe has 48 indexing positions located on the pulley, which can be locked or unlocked by rotating the indexing pin above the hand wheel. To avoid any accidental damage, always make sure that the indexing pin is disengaged and rotate the hand wheel to ensure that it spins freely before starting up the machine. Now we'll go ahead and connect the lathe to the power supply. Then we'll turn the main power switch to the on position. You'll notice that the display on the headstock should light up. Now we'll go over the controls on the headstock, starting with the spindle direction switch, which has 3 positions: forward, neutral, and reverse. Then there is the speed adjustment knob that can control the speed of the lathe. Always make sure to set the lathe at the lowest speed before turning on the machine. This is for safe practices and to ensure that nothing comes flying off as the machine starts up. Next, we'll talk about the start button and how to start the lathe. To start the lathe, you'll need to set the spindle direction in the forward or reverse position, press the green start button, and then slowly dial the speed adjustment knob to increase the RPM. Note that there are 3 ways to stop the lathe: by either pressing the red stop button, setting the switch to neutral, or by turning the speed adjustment knob down to 0. The T60 lathe also comes with a magnetic mobile switch that allows you to start and stop the lathe and can be positioned or mounted anywhere on the right side of the lathe. Another neat feature to the Harvey T60 lathe is the small window on the electrical box that displays the load on the spindle, the parameters or fault codes, which can be cleared by pressing and holding the blue button located on the electrical box for a few seconds. Another way to clear fault code is by simply cycling the power off and on to clear any codes and restore functionality to the machine. Make sure the machine completely powers off before cycling the power back on. And that concludes the unboxing and assembly of the Harvey T60S lathe. We hope this video was helpful. If there are any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.